I literally went from the worst to the best. And what I noticed as soon as we got there, I was like, well, I mean, this is a business, man. This place is the accountability level, and what you're asked to do in New England is much higher. In Jacksonville, it's fun. I mean, we love the environment, but we're losing.
Clay, I do want to ask you about your days post Philadelphia because we're most concerned with what you did here with the Eagles because we are Birds 365.
Yeah.
But afterward, you went to Jacksonville for a good couple of seasons. Yes, you bounced around at the end with the Lions and the Saints and the Patriots. Is there any point where you just said, as much as I love football, and we know how much you love football, the just nomadic aspect of it, you got to be ready to get up and move and find a new apartment, do whatever. It's great for the players who sign their first contract and then stay with their team for 15 years and never have to leave. But a guy like yourself was as motivated as you were to stay in the league, had to go from team to team to team. How did that play for you?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing because people, when they think of NFL players, they always think about these guys that are signing the $100 million contracts, the $50 million contracts with the team for years. And looking back, I definitely made some mistakes as far as where I went. After Philly, I go to Jacksonville. It's a good 3 seasons there, and they wanted to sign me for a longer 3-year deal at the end of my contract. So I'm like, I could probably stay here. I've been here for another 3 years, be a Jaguar. But I had an offer from the Patriots for 2 years. And going back and forth, I'm like, should I stay in Jacksonville? Just, obviously I've really proved myself. I was a much better football player in Jacksonville than I was in Philadelphia. If you ask a fan in Jacksonville versus a fan in Philadelphia about me, they're going to say, wow, Clay Harbor was consistent. He caught everything that came his way. He was a great blocker. Obviously we didn't have success in Jacksonville, but in Philly, I was young and I was still figuring this whole thing out coming from Missouri State. Family said, Harbor was, iffy, ups and downs. He had some drops, whatever. Had a couple good blocks, he let a couple guys go. Complete different places. I really came on my own in Jacksonville. Obviously, the numbers are harder to get, but if you have 300 yards, I was a top PFF top 40 tight end 3 years in Jacksonville. I had 300 yards twice in Jacksonville. When you're with the worst offense in the league, that's hard to do. Number 32 out of 32. But I regret making that choice to move to New England. Looking back at it, I go to New England because I want to chase the Super Bowl. I want to play with Brady, Belichick. I signed this deal. It was a nice little deal. But I get hurt when I come in there. They obviously had Rob Gronkowski, Martellus Bennett. They had drafted a tight end, and they had another big-time tight end. I make the team. I didn't think I was going to make the team. I'm injured this whole offseason. Make the team. I'm on the team for 5-6 games. Couple injuries. We're going to let you go and try to bring you back. But we don't know. They let me go. The next day, I get a call from Detroit, San Francisco, New York Jets. We want you to come. We've been looking for a tight end. Come out here to Oakland. Oakland actually offered me the best contract, but Detroit told me I'd have a chance to start. I'm like, if I get a chance to start, I'm confident. I think I'm going to play well, get a good contract. It didn't really happen that way. The guy wasn't hurt the way they said he was when I signed there, and then I played with Detroit, but ended up making the playoffs that year. Playing the playoff game, but New England ended up winning the Super Bowl. The team I started with ended up winning the Super Bowl 28-3, and that was fun watching them. But the guys you're in training camp with, the OTAs you're with in the season. It was a weird feeling watching them celebrate on the field. Like, man, I was really with this team. It should have been me. And that's the whole reason I signed. Jacksonville offered me the same monetary contract, an extra year. And it started to bounce around a little bit. Detroit. And then after Detroit offered me a little deal, I ended up signing with New Orleans instead. Then I ended up getting hurt, missed the whole season. Then after that, the next season, my last year, I have a bunch of workouts lined up. I go to my first workout in Buffalo. So it was my 9th season. And on the field with McDermott, Brian Dable, all those guys, I run a dig route that I've ran a million times. I tear my groin on the field. It's a freak accident. I'm out for 6 months, out for the whole season. So I missed that New Orleans season, the end of it. And then this whole season, I tear my groin during a workout. like, if you're healthy and in shape, we're going to sign you. You're going to be our number 2 tight end. Missed the whole year, and that's how my career ended.
Well, you did have 8 years, though, Clay, and you mentioned your time in New England. So you started with Andy Reid.
Yeah.
You had time with Bill Belichick. In those 8 years, you arguably played for the 2 best coaches of this generation. Do you ever sit back and think, like, wow, what kind of, influence those types of coaches had on my career? And you mentioned Jacksonville and obviously some other situations you were in that weren't as successful as Andy and Bill have been. How much of a dichotomy is that when you see the best and everybody can't be the best? If everybody was the best, then there wouldn't be anybody who's at the top of their profession. So just curious if you noticed the difference between that top tier level of coaching and other situations.
Yeah, I went from Jacksonville to New England in 1 year. I mean, you couldn't have went from a worse team to a better team. I literally went from the worst to the best. And what I noticed as soon as we got there, I was like, well, I mean, this is a business, man. This place is the accountability level, and what you're asked to do in New England is much higher. In Jacksonville, it's fun. I mean, we love the environment, but we're losing. Coaches were great. They were fun guys to play for, but we couldn't win games. In New England, it was business. You're going to do this or you're not going to be here. And it was just more of a accountability. Everybody knew what they had to do. You had to study. You had to be on the top of your game. It was more competitive even. And it felt different. It felt like you knew that coming in, you were the favorite. You were supposed to win. Not like in Jacksonville, you're waiting for something bad to happen. Like, okay, like somebody throws an interception, there it goes. Like, we were playing so well, we're in a game, and then we throw a pick and something happens. In New England, that was Deflategate year too. So we didn't have time for our first 4 games, and we still came out 3-1. And people didn't expect that to happen. So that was an interesting experience, just knowing that you're on the Patriots and you have this coaching. And obviously I had Brian Daboll, it's my tight end coach. I mean, this guy's really smart. He's an offensive guru, awesome guy. I love Daboll, and obviously I'm happy for him in New York Giant coach. Obviously, you guys don't want him to be successful, and neither do I as a Birds fan. But I mean, Daboll's guy, he's a players coach, but the coaching staff they put there is incredible. I mean, you had Brian Flores, you had Brian Daboll, you had the last coach of the New York Giants,
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge.
Yeah.
You had Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
These guys were, just top of the line guys, and they all know their stuff. Offensive coordinator, obviously, you had
Josh McDaniels. Was he there?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, it's a crazy staff he had, and everybody knew what you had to do to be on the field.
Clay, after your playing days had come and gone, you became a bit of a TV star. And usually when we think about ex-football players as TV stars, we think they're in a booth, calling games on Sunday, or maybe in a studio somewhere, breaking down and preparing for upcoming games and the like. Somehow you became a reality TV star.
Yeah, don't ask me, man. It was
No, that's exactly what I'm going to ask you. It you? Was it your agent? Was it your mom? How does an NFL player become a reality TV star?
Yeah, honestly, I'm still asking myself that question as well. What was I thinking, doing this? But no, it was just a cool opportunity. A friend of mine had went through this process. I didn't even know what the show was, The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. And it was right after New Orleans. I'm on IR all year. And for me, I thought, hey, this could be cool. It could lead to some cool stuff if I go through this. Now, maybe it's a dating show, whatever. Never thinking it could actually get hurt on a dating show. And I ended up actually breaking my wrist on the show.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going on the show. Like, this could lead to some cool opportunities, maybe see what happens. What's the worst could happen? Talking to friends, they told me it's a reality show, but it's on ABC. It's not like a crazy, like, trashy reality show. And you look at some of the guys you saw, Jordan Rodgers, he became a career broadcaster after going on the show. Jesse Palmer, a former draft pick. There were some guys that had done it before and really helped their careers out in certain ways. And so, hey, it could be cool. Maybe I'll meet my wife on a TV show. I'm single, and they still decided I could train when I was there. I worked out half the time. I'm going on a date with this woman that happened to be a really, really nice girl. And unfortunately for me, I ended up breaking my wrist and had to go home. And then after the NFL, after that next season, I went to the workout with Buffalo, got hurt with the groin. I went back on a spinoff show of that network, and that's basically it. I was like, hey, I'm not playing football anymore. Maybe this could lead to something. And kind of just where opportunities arose, seeing what could happen with them, and really just taking chances. And looking back, I think maybe I shouldn't have went on there if I could take it all back. But hey, it was a cool experience. I made a lot of friends, and it was something. I'll have a lot of stories to tell to my grandkids.
Yeah.
Sitting at the table in a few years.
Clay, I do want to talk about, I think you were on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your last attempt at professional football was that Team 9 with the XFL.
XFL,
yeah. Which I thought was an interesting idea to sort of have.
And they're bringing it back.
Yeah, they're bringing it back next year. Dwayne Johnson and bought the league, and they're going to bring it back next year. But just the whole environment, I guess it was they had 8 teams and they called it Team 9, and you guys would practice like a team. And then if somebody else got injured, was that sort of the mentality of then you would be brought to one of the teams? Is that sort of how they shifted that whole thing? Because I think it's an interesting idea for a developmental aspect. People talk about that with professional football. It never really comes to fruition.
Yeah, there's another league they're coming out with. There's a few extra leagues now. But for me, the Team 9 thing, I was really trying to get back in the league. And, people didn't think I could stay healthy. So I thought it'd be a cool thing. They hit me up. They wanted me to play the regular season. I wasn't really interested at the time. Halfway through the year, they hit me up again. The season's been going on. They're like, hey, we have this workout. We need some guys. If you'd be interested, we got to work out in a couple of weeks. Would you want to come? I'm like, no. But then I started thinking, like, why not? Like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, if I go out here to this thing, maybe I play well and I've got some tape, and then there's a NFL team. This was still back in 2020. It was only a couple years out. That needs a tight end, and they're like, hey, we know this guy can learn a playbook. He can play some special teams. I mean, look at his tape. Obviously he's playing the XFL, but he's still got some juice. So I said, whatever, I'm gonna go to this workout. So I go to the workout and absolutely murder it. Like, I'm feeling good. I'm running crisp routes. Everything's going well. And afterwards I'm like, wow, this was crazy. So then you go home, and I knew I did well. And then a week later, the guy was like, yeah, obviously, you crushed this workout. We want you to come. But the way they did it, he's in the middle of the season. You sign with the XFL, you have to go to Team 9 for X amount of days until somebody needs you. And you have to be there at least five days or a week. So I go there for the week, and I was about to sign with the Dallas Renegades. Literally about to sign, playing the week of practice. I'm feeling great. I feel like I'm 25 again. I'm running routes. I can't be guard. Obviously, it's the XFL, and you're playing against inferior competition than I was used to in the NFL. But there was still some talent there. Receivers, the defensive backs, these are talented guys that just needed to be refined a little bit. I thought there was a lot of skill and talent there, in my opinion. And right before I was about to sign with the Renegades, pandemic hits, they shut down the league. I go, wow, there goes my comeback attempt. I was playing well, body's feeling great. I just want to get a few games of tape on. As soon as I signed, about to sign with the Renegades, team XFL's over because of the pandemic. So that was unfortunate, for me there.
It truly is. All right, last question for me, Clay. You kind of touched on it. You mentioned about Brian Dable, and we wouldn't be rooting for his success with the Giants because we're Birds 365. And you said me as an Eagle fan. I'm strapping it to a truth-o-meter here. Who are you a fan of? Where you grew up, the teams that you played for, the coaches that you played for, a couple of your teammates still in the league, probably pretty good friends. Going into 2022, if you're not associated with a team, nobody's reaching out, you're just kicking back, relaxing, and watching the NFL because you're a football guy. Who are you rooting for?
So I got 3 teams. There's 3 teams, and I guess I can rank them for you guys. I haven't really thought about ever ranking them, but
Rank them.
yeah, growing up, my dad, even when I got drafted, he'd come to games. I mean, where I'm from Chicago, I'm a Bears fan. I'll always be a Bears fan. Bears have my heart. My dad would come to my games. We're playing against the Bears my rookie season in Chicago. I have 3 catches. He comes to the game with an Eagles hat, with an Eagles, my jersey, and a Bears hat on. Did not have the Bears stuff on. I go, Dad, your son is playing the game, and I can't help it, man. I'm a Bears fan, and at least I got your Eagles jersey on. I'm like, all right, Dad, appreciate you at least showing some love. But he had his Bears cap on. This guy's
understandable.
Yeah, and then the Birds, the team that drafted me. I had some good times in Philly. Loved my time there. Still got some teammates there too. It's cool to watch. Kelsey still there. Brandon Graham, a guy from my draft class. I mean, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, guys that I played with. Zach Ertz obviously isn't there anymore, but there's still some guys. There's still some veterans in that locker room that I remember playing with, and we had some good times back in the day. So Birds, Eagles, one of my teams, and the Jaguars. In Jacksonville, I really played the best football of my career. I regret leaving there. I should have stayed in Jacksonville for that 3-year contract and stuck it out with the Jags. I love the organization. Obviously, they've had struggles. The city of Jacksonville is great. But to rank them, okay, I don't know. But I'll be a politician, man. It's all an even tie.
Nah, you got to go Bears. Come on. You're a Chicago guy.
I'm a Chicago guy. I do. But honestly, I find myself watching and talking more about the Eagles. Like on Twitter, if I'm talking sports, I follow the Eagles and the Jags more. I feel like more of a connection there because I actually played there. But in my heart, my family, everybody's Bears fans. So there's always that with the Bears. I'm always, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? It's just more of a nostalgic thing, with the Bears. And I hope they do well. I go to a lot of Bears games just because it's right down. I live in West Loop, Chicago. It's right down the street. I'll ride my bike to a game. A buddy's got a box or a couple extra tickets. We'll go tailgate. So it's interesting, and I just love NFL Sunday because I love seeing what those 3 teams are doing. If one of them aren't playing, when we're playing late game, I know exactly who I'm watching. But I love every team, that every one of those teams in a different way.
All right, we'll end it there then. We'll end it in Chicago. At Clay Harbs 82. Follow Clay on Twitter. Clay Harbor online. Former Eagles tight end. Thrilled to have you here, Clay. But how excited is Chicago? New GM, new coach, young quarterback with a lot of upside. And look, we talk about the passion of Philadelphia fans. The Bears fans are passionate as well. How excited are people in Chicago?
People in Chicago are excited. They like Eberflus. We got Justin Fields, Ryan Poles, a new GM. They're excited, but a lot of our moves make it seem like the Bears are in a rebuild. You trade away Mac. You haven't really signed any big names in free agency. You're being very selective there, and I think it's obviously geared towards a rebuild. You don't have a big name receiver. You signed a couple offensive linemen, but the general consensus is they're going for a rebuild, and I think that I kind of disagree with it because. You look at Devontae Adams is gone. Obviously, you got Aaron Rodgers there who's going to be there for several years to come. But I don't think you got the Vikings. You get the Lions coming off one of the worst seasons in history. The Vikings had an okay season, but they didn't make the playoffs. Kirk Cousins, great year, great numbers, can't win games. And obviously, you got the Packers who have dominated that division and dominated the Bears. But you look at last season. They're not doing anything in the playoffs. Like Jimmy Garoppolo comes in and beats them. So I think that the division's open right now, but the Bears are really taking this rebuild mentality and mindset. And I don't think polls would actually call it that, but the consensus out there, I've talked to a lot of the sports writers. I've been on ESPN 1000 a couple times, NBC Chicago, talking ball, talking Bears. And the consensus is it's sort of a rebuild season. But hopefully we get surprised because there's not as much people aren't really expecting much. And I think sometimes when that happens, you'll get surprised. But I'm hoping Fields, the season lies on Fields, much as it does Hurts. These guys are similar. Obviously, Hurts is much further along than Fields. Fields had a tough season. Isn't as refined yet as Hurts is, but I think it's a big year for both of those guys.
I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise step up year 2 from Fields. I've been on his bandwagon since Ohio State days, and I'm not getting off because of last year. Do like the kid and think he's going to be really good for you. And oh, by the way, we'll have John McMullen scouring the parking lot. We'll have other scouts out there at Soldier Field. The Philadelphia Eagles will be visiting the Chicago Bears this year, so we're going to have to check out what Clay Harbor is wearing. Could it be another Eagles hat and Cowboy Bears jersey, or Bears hat and Eagles jersey? We'll have you scouted out. The game hasn't been scheduled yet, but we know the Birds are going to Chicago this year. Clay, we're definitely getting you back on this show that week, this upcoming year. We thank you much for hopping on with us today.
Appreciate you having me, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Clay.
Our pleasure. Clay Harbor with the good backdrop. Not quite what we've got going here with the ocean, but the old brick backdrop. Remember we had that for the first
we started with the brick backdrop, with the old school stand-up comedy backdrop.
Yes, with Clay Harbor had as well. Good dude, really a really nice guy. Appreciate him coming on with us. All right, we got to take a quick time out because the time is running nigh. We'll come back, put a bow on the show on Birds 365.